Welcome back to Sunrise Daily. Well, Dr. Dele Ashiru is of the Political Science Department, University of Lagos. He joins us now on this matter. Thank you for coming on today.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Interestingly, we have some comments coming through already. I guess they're responding to Mr. Leimu's comments. Well, I see Olushola here who says, well, I believe the National Conference can fashion out the way out for the country. Let's join hands and talk. Olufemi says, look, no matter how bad the proposed National Conference is, it will address more issues than the 2015 elections, and it just keeps coming on. And then Austin says he's of the viewing jury and they know what to do after the program. But looking at all these comments and how far we've come with this conference, the modalities and what to expect, how do you see this playing out?
Well, thank you very much. I think, the National Conference coming at this moment, for me, is a welcome development. Even though, you know, there are some questions as to the modalities, the composition, the timing, etc. But let me start by saying that when the idea of a conference was mooted, the critical word there is that it ought to be sovereign, given the fact that the constitution that we operate at the moment was handed over to us by the military. And there's the question about the autochthony of the constitution. And I think that more than anything else is what this conference is expected to do. Having said that, now we don't have a sovereign national conference, but we have, going by the nomenclature that has been approved, a national conference. I think, yes, it's time for Nigerians to, you know, avail ourselves, you know, this opportunity of talking. And talk we must. But who are those talking? That takes us to the composition of those, you know, to be nominated as decreed by the Secretary to Federal Government.
Decreed, you say?
I mean, yeah, because if we're talking about the people, for me, nothing short of an election. Yeah, there could be some...
For the delegates.
The delegates. Nothing short of electing the delegates. Even if there will be some few nominations from the president and all that. Because if you talk about the people, tell me how 36 elder statesmen, who are the elder statesmen? You know, to be from the 6th geopolitical zone and all that. And these are the same people who helped to put Nigeria in the position that we are at.
But isn't that a problem?
Yeah, no, but are we assuming that the elder statesmen cannot be above board? Because Senator said he could name well over...
Because we challenged Senator Kromo yesterday, and he said, well, it doesn't necessarily have to be a politician.
Yeah, well, the concept of elder statesmen is nebulous. And all kinds of characters can come in under the rubric of elder statesman. That's the point I'm making. And how do I hold an elder statesman responsible for my plight after the conference?
But they're just a little group. I mean, 37 of them.
It doesn't matter, but a lot of other Nigerians have been shut out.
From 492. And then
not only that,
yes,
political parties. I mean, if I get my elementary definition of political parties right, it's supposed to be a group of people who come together, who share similar interests, coming together to capture political power. Yeah. Now that composition is saying that unless you are elected into the National Assembly, you cannot have your representation at the conference. I think that is wrong.
Well, when we're talking about just one, again, out of this numerous political...
That's how we will go knocking off the 493 nominees.
The thing is, they have to... Because even at 492, a host of people think that is a really large group and it's rather unruly, and that to even get anywhere with that is going to be a problem.
We can then ask the question, how representative is 493 out of the 160 million?
But then again...
Or out of the 70 million registered voters in Nigeria, how representative? Let's not talk about the number. Let's look at the philosophy behind it. If we are saying that what the conference should do is address some critical issues within the Nigerian polity, my opinion is that this group of people must have a tab.
Just a moment now. Okay. You've talked about elections. That is your own proposition. You've said this the people who want to go to this or who want to be delegates should be elected. The question will be how.
Oh.
Do you hope to see people coming out to campaign to say, pick me?
Oh, yes, why not?
Do you not also see a situation whereby this kind of process, if there is an election, could be influenced by the politicians that a host of people are already complaining they do not want in this particular conference?
You see, what I think we should begin to do in Nigeria is understand our peculiarities and most often think outside the box. This kind of election need not necessarily be the first past the post system that we're used to in Nigeria, which I have challenged severally. The election could be by electoral college. Even the so-called nominees, elder statesmen and all that, could be the ones that will be saddled with the responsibility of selecting Nigerians who are known to be men of integrity, who are known for what they've done before.
Who will be those that will vote?
Like I said, in the electoral, if it's by the electoral college, members of the electoral college will do the voting.
What's
How will they be
electoral
constituted?
college?
An electoral college could just be, a group of people selected to represent various interests.
So you have nominations again, the nominations you're running away
but
from.
I'm just trying to meet you at the point of your argument. My own opinion is that, look, if I want to go to the conference, for example, I'm permanently shut out. But if I had the the opportunity of contesting, I might as well contest against a number of people in a federal constituency. If you say one per federal constituency or two, I can test my luck there. And if, for example, things didn't go the way, people in my constituency expected, we can have somebody to ask some questions. What mandate did we give to you? What did you go there to do?
If you look at the classification on the groups of people that are expected to be there, most of those that to go there, the decision has been left to the stakeholders. For instance, the NLC is sending in, I think, about 22 people. It's same for the TUC. Now, if you belong to this group, just a moment, if you belong to this group of people, don't you think that the election which you seek, which you say can be done by an electoral college, can't it be within these groups of people? And don't you think that these people can actually hold their own members accountable as well?
You see, let me say that, even some of these groups, NLC, for example, there are people in the top echelon of the NLC who seem not to believe in the national conference. And these are the same people who will nominate people into that conference. You see, the composition of the conference seems to underestimate what the conference ought to do. This conference is a golden opportunity for Nigerians to address some critical issues. And if you bring people, if you recycle those who have contributed to the state in which Nigeria is, retired military personnel and military and security personnel, the NANS president we saw some other time, the last time, and so such characters coming to debate the future of Nigeria. I think we need to revisit that composition.
When you say
haven't said that,
I'm trying to get the point before you get to this next one.
Okay.
When you say you're shut out,
is
it as an individual or as a professional?
Both as an individual, first and foremost as a Nigerian. I'm a Nigerian, I'm an individual.
Yeah, but you know
before I then belong to maybe a professional or any kind of organization.
But it's clear that every Nigerian cannot be at this conference.
So certainly
they have to be represented in one way.
Thank you very much. If you talk about representation, that word, representation is not about nomination. And that's why I think if we're talking about representation, properly so-called, whoever, at least 50% of those who will be in that conference must have the mandate of a group of Nigerians.
But your
beyond
group,
the nominees like
you're of the professional group, the Academy of Social Sciences. Yes. They've got representation there. So how are you shut out?
I say as a Nigerian.
Yes, I didn't know Nigerians.
They are, but I don't think that that will serve the purpose of... Then the autonomy of the constitution that I talked about, how...
You don't think this will serve?
This will not serve it. Because if we say we, the Nigerian people, all of these people in the group represents a country of Nigerians.
Let's look at...
What about the masses, the Nigerian masses?
Dr. Ashiru, let's look at the numbers now. 492. And bringing the House of Representatives together and the Senate is not up to 492, 106,
they're
3,
about.
close to, but not up to 106 and 109, 360.
Yes.
So it's not up to that. So are you saying that the 492 is insignificant to the issues that we are likely to look at?
Yeah, you see, we also...
Because when you say, well, who represents you or who represents the next man, are we saying this amount is, or this figure rather, is insignificant?
You see, we shouldn't conflict some issues. What this conference is going to do or ought to do cannot be equated with what goes on in the National Assembly. Because the National Assembly itself will be a subject of debate at that conference. I hope you get the point. Okay, now there are ouster clauses. I mean, don't discuss the indivisibility and indivisibility
just one,
of Nigeria.
Just a clause.
Okay, a clause. Fine. I mean, I don't think that a lot of Nigerians want Nigeria divided. If you see people chanting a divided Nigeria, it will be those who are not benefiting at the moment, who are not sharing from the national cake at the moment. Those will be the ones. Because a poor man in Kano and a poor man in Lagos, the realities of their life are one and the same. And I think so much for the composition, because I also want us to look at what are the critical issues that ought to be discussed at that conference. Now it's a fait accompli. We've been clamoring for a conference. Now we have a conference. Then how do we, utilize this conference to effect some fundamental changes in the Nigerian
market? You're changing the agenda. It's interesting that you're changing the agenda in a sense that because you're the one who's brought up the composition of the delegates to that particular conference, and you brought up your ideas. The fact that you do not even think that you're adequately represented. So how can you then move to the topics that will be discussed at that particular conference?
Well, like I said, it's like a fait accompli. I mean, if, for example, I say, I insist that it must be by election. If the President of the Federal Republic says it has to be by the ones that Senator Ayim had announced, I mean, that wouldn't change anything.
But it's just a small amount. No, I think we have to make this clear. It's just a small amount, about 40-something of this number that the President will have the prerogative to nominate.
Are nominees by one stakeholder or by the President?
Not by the President, because we have the the clip from Senator Ayim, and we also had a one-on-one with him. So it is quite clear what the President will be in charge of. For instance, the outstanding youth and maybe the elder statesmen is not up to 50 in all of this number.
Yes. But others are nominees of one organization or the other.
And we've said you seem to belong to, at least more than one group. First of all, my colleague already pointed out a group that you could represent.
That's Dele Ashiru. What about the market woman? What about the artisan? What about the farmers? What about the fishermen?
The market women have their groups here. There are how many women groups here representing market women? I mean, they seem to have all of that because they have associations. Even market women do have associations. And it would seem that all of that has been factored into as much as possible. Student groups are supposed to belong to NANS. I mean, and that's why you have NANS going there. Whether or not you agree with the character of people there,
you seem not to agree.
Anyway, you see, theoretically and practically speaking, if what will come out of that conference is expected to be, integrated into the Constitution, and the Constitution would take the nomenclature of we the people of Nigeria, I think that those who should go to that conference must get the mandate of Nigerians, not of their groups.
So you think the market women can properly aggregate some of these views?
Well, why not? I think so. And, I mean, that takes us into a lot of other debate.
Which we don't have time for now.
Unfortunately.
Time flies when we do this kind of thing. But it's amazing, Prince Ade missed comments. It just strikes me. He says there will never be a right time to marry if you keep postponing it. Let's hold this conference once and for all. But interesting views from Dr. Dele Ashiru, Political Science Department, University of Lagos. Thank you for coming on this morning.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
All right, and that's where we call it a day today on the program. We thank you all for watching. We'll see you next time. I'm Chamberlain. Thank
you. I'm Maupe Ogun.
Well, many thanks. I'm Sulaiman Alede.